This episode of the Western Outdoor News Podcast is brought to you by Kiss My Bass Charity Bass Tournament event, benefiting the Stockton Boys and Girls Club, September 18th at Ladd's Marina. This is a great way to compete and give back to the Stockton Boys and Girls Club and youth programs. For more information, visit wonews.com.
With the 600 horsepower, we got the torque we need to pull the heavy loads, and then we have the horsepower we need to get ourselves out of some bad situations.
Hey folks, and welcome back. This is episode 31 of the Western Outdoor News Podcast. Just this last Sunday, we had the time to sit down with Greg Trompas. Greg and his team fished at this year's California Tuna Jackpot. They'd sweep the competition with a 218-pounder caught the evening before.
I see the majority of your big fish being caught in the late afternoon, so it's imperative that we have this kind of a format.
We then speak with kayak angler Greg Johnson. Along with a core group of like-minded anglers, Greg landed his first bluefin tuna from the kayak. He recounts his experience and gives a few pointers for those thinking about taking a shot themselves.
You're at the mercy of what direction this fish wants to go, so a couple times he would just, dig deep, and I felt like a teeter-totter in my kayak.
You're not going to want to miss out on this one, folks. But first, we'll jump into it with Greg talking about the California Tuna Jackpot, presented by Yamaha. What was your guys' day like? Did you guys catch all your fish yesterday and during the day, or did you guys fish through the night?
Yeah, it was all daytime fishing, actually. We prepared the first night by catching some flying fish and had both live and dead available for us. And then we set out in the early morning there, working towards where we thought the fish were going to be. And we ended up getting on the fish about 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, so you guys got on them pretty early. Did you guys get on a bite that early, or you just find the zone?
We just found the zone with some breezing fish. We've been capitalizing on the breezing fish, mostly on breezer schools, not so much that foamer stuff. So we stayed away from the zone that was doing that and really tried to focus on finding the breezers. And with the wind up early, it was tough. And we just found the zone early. I don't think we got a hook in the fish until right before noon.
Oh, wow. So you guys really just kind of followed that fish around.
Yeah, we
kept a close tab on it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Tried to, at least. We lost them a couple times.
And you had mentioned live, flyers, and dead. Did you guys end up catching on a live or a dead fish?
We didn't have any, we had one bite on the live, and we had all the fish on the dead flyers, fresh, dead, rigged flyers.
Yeah. And that fish, that number one fish was at, what was the weight again on that?
That was at 218.3.
Yeah, and I think you had another fish right around 206.
That was 208 the other
208. So you had two fish over 200 pounds. I think you guys pretty much stomped on the competition this year.
We had a 125 for good measure.
And you guys didn't do any yellowtail fishing. It didn't sound like anyone really did that this tournament. They really focused on fishing for that larger bluefin tuna.
Yeah, with the money being in the tuna, you really have to focus on what it is that you're doing with that day. So we completely ignored the yellowtail part of the tournament and just focused on the bluefin.
Right on. Well, I saw the rig down there. The thing's a beast. How was the weather for you guys?
The weather, it was nicer than it's been, but that's not saying much. The ocean's been really angry lately. So we had some decent weather. The wind really got with it in the afternoon. And, the way we have our boat set up, that 25 Davis Bahia with the twin 300 Yamahas out on a bracket, and you got all your cockpit room, and with the 600 horsepower, we got the torque we need, to pull the heavy loads, and then we have the horsepower we need to get ourselves out of some bad situations. So.
Yeah, right on. Hey, well, Greg, anything else you want to kind of say about this tournament and hoping for next year to keep growing this thing, right?
Yeah, it was surprising to see the number actually gone down since last year when the fishing was so much better, and I just kind of came across, good friends of mine that would have the financial ability as well as the know-how to go after this, and they just didn't know about it. So we're gonna work real hard at getting the word out, and I think this could be a really big tournament with some really big, like 6-figure prizes if I think enough of the people that want to do this kind of thing were aware. So we're gonna work real hard at getting the word out and see if we can't grow this thing.
Yeah, for sure. The payouts are big, and with those big side pots and stuff, getting some of these bigger boats involved. And do you like the format? Do you think that's going to be a good thing going forward?
Last year we had two bluefin tournaments, one with Pelagic, one with Western Outdoor News. Neither of them could you fish in the afternoon. That's when this tournament was won. I fish a lot of big bluefin, and if you gave me the opportunity of 10 days to fish either morning or the afternoons, I'm going to take afternoons 10 out of 10. So your afternoon and evenings is when all the big ones are caught. That's when the biggest fish that we've caught has been caught. I have a 421 by myself in 2019, and that was in the end of November. So, and it was, at the end of the day while it was going dark. So over a big scale of a big sample sheet to look at here, I see the majority of your big fish being caught in the late afternoon. So it's imperative that we have this kind of a format. I think the format was great, and then we get in at you get in at a time when you're ready to still have the award ceremony and everything. But
yeah, decompress,
you got
do
to
lunch,
fish that whole 25 hours. So we had the night, the morning, the afternoon, evening, and even another night. I think it was a great format.
Yeah. I think going forward next year, it's a good idea to keep it this way.
Definitely.
So that we get some of those big guys coming
100%, in. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I think we get more of the yacht set involved and even some of the really good commercial guys, because it's a chance for the guys grinding every day to use their skills and knowledge and talents to actually win a big check. So I think we get the word out to different avenues here, and we can have a big tournament.
Right on. Well, Greg, it was great talking to you. And
you too. I appreciate it.
I think we're going to see you next year. That's for sure.
That's for sure. I love
hopefully start working some more saltwater tournaments and doing some more things in the future here.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Right on.
Okay, folks, and here's Greg Johnson with his experience fishing the kayak for bluefin tuna just outside of Dana Point Harbor.
I'd like to call peer pressure, but it wasn't really peer pressure when you have an idea like that to catch a bluefin off a kayak. It was a couple really good friends of mine, part of a little kayak group called Fresh and Salty, that were seeing the opportunity of, this could be a reality, catch a bluefin tuna from a kayak, literally paddle out from the harbor to where the bluefin live. And that's kind of where it all sparked up. And we, ended up, making it happen and doing the trip. And, it was just a pretty epic experience.
How many guys did you have with you when you were doing this?
Yeah, so we had myself and two others on a kayak on Hobie Outback. So they're, pedal drives. My buddy Key and my buddy Hung. And then we had another friend of ours that was on this little skiff thing that has a little motor on it, our buddy Will, and he was out there as well. He was kind of our lead man, kind of, checking it out, seeing what type of life is out in the ocean while we're pedaling out there. And that was it, just us.
Yeah, so he was kind of able to scout up ahead of you guys.
Yeah, he could definitely get further out faster. And we kind of all just were in like a little bit of a little 1 mile away from each other or less at all times.
Yeah, kind of a formation to cover ground, because I know being so low to the water, it's got to be tough to really see what's going on. Are you guys able to stand up while you're out there? I know those kayaks are pretty stable. Did you guys do any of that?
Absolutely not. No standing up on the kayak. No. You can. I have stood up on a kayak, but definitely not in this situation. It was interesting just to go out offshore a little bit on the kayak, let alone maneuver around on there. And it was a little choppy in the beginning, so we were bunkered down on that kayak.
Where'd you guys leave out of?
So we actually left out of Dana Point, kind of a little after hours trip. Straight out of the harbor. It was super smooth, dropped the kayaks right in and paddled our way to the bait barge, and they filled each of us up with the little kayak scoop, they call it. And it was a mix of sardines and anchovies. Healthy bait, pretty good bait. And then off we were outside the breakwall into the open water outside of Dana Point.
Yeah. So your guys' plan was to have bait obviously with you. I'm sure you guys were ready to cast on fish that were boiling and doing the whole foamer thing. So, at this point, you guys start paddling out and just go through the experience. What happened at that point?
Yeah, I really didn't know what to expect. I just know, hey, we may, run into some foamers, right? It could be epic. Come right to the kayak. I'll cast one of those metal Zakana jigs at them. I'll hook up and it'd be epic. That was kind of the dream. And then the other option was we don't see any tuna. I paddle out, I get some exercise and come back in, right? And it was cool to at least try. But so we went out, we paddled out, we kept going and going. And I'd ask my buddy, hey, you think this is a good enough spot, or are we out to where we want to fish? And he's, Key said, a little further. And, 1.5 mile went to 2 miles, 2 miles went to 2.5, and then 3. And I think between 3 and 4 miles is kind of the zone we were at. And, we had, like I mentioned, we had the metals kind of jig ready to go, to cast and bomb as far out as we could, because we were assuming we're not going to be able to keep up with these bluefin. And then I had, a long gaff ready to go. And I changed from a popper to a live bait last minute, which I'm thankful I did, because we all try to catch them on jigs before live bait, but we changed to a live bait hook. And, didn't really see much right away, but then we started to see lots of life. We saw, dolphin, which, the radio got wild and everyone's like, there's fish. And it ended up being dolphin. We've all kind of experienced that probably. And then we saw, I think, some smaller looking, looked like pilot whales. And then some of the other guys literally saw hammerheads. And that was about the time I wanted to turn back and go back to the dock.
Yeah.
Seeing a shark, everyone's like, sharks out there. And of course there's sharks. But, for them to literally see one, and it came pretty close, I guess. There was a pack of them. They said 5 of them. They counted. Yeah, they counted 5. They weren't really big, but they were long. And that was kind of interesting. They were just, I think, probably chasing around bait or something. And so we got out there and took some cool photos of these fins in the water and some of the life. And I made the decision to, I guess, we're not going to necessarily see any to cast right away, or potentially we will. Let me throw out a slow troll bait, and didn't have any mackerel. Typically would slow troll a mackerel, but we slapped on the liveliest, nice sized sardine and threw her back. And, kind of just moseyed around looking for fish. And next thing you know, we ran into some jumping fish, and I had to do a double take and confirmed in my eyes, and then yelled on the radio, of course, bunch of jumping tuna fish ahead.
Yeah. And then you were still slow trolling at this time. So did you just leave that out and keep going towards this fish you saw?
Yeah. So I didn't even, for like a split instant, I kind of forgot about my slow troll sardine. And I just tried to focus on pedaling as fast as I could towards the direction of these fish. And then next thing you know, it started to get better and better. Like birds started to show up, and more and more fish started to come about. And then the next goal was, hey, how do I figure out which direction these things are moving so I can cut them off? And literally I was probably 10 seconds away of, grabbing my jig stick and casting. And next thing you know, I got like yoinked from my kayak on my slow troll that I forgot about, and just started screaming. It was on a spinning reel, mind you, on a Certate spinning reel. Started screaming, and luckily I didn't grab that jig stick, and I managed to grab that slow troll rod out of the rod holder from the Hobie kayak. It wasn't even an aftermarket holder; it was literally the hole in the kayak, and then the battle began.
Now you're hooked up. You had seen those sharks. What's going through your mind at this point?
You know what? I think my adrenaline was rushing so much that I was like, I need to figure out how not to fall off this kayak and, catch this fish, not pull the hook, not set the drag. And then also I didn't want to get spooled because he was just taking so much line. The sharks kind of just went out the head. I didn't even think about it until we, got more towards the process of actually landing this fish. Then I started to think, hey, there's blood in the water. What am I going to do?
Were you at that point, had you called to your guys and said, hey, I'm hooked up? Did they come over to help assist with the landing, or did they just keep fishing, doing their thing?
No, I definitely got excited and announced it on the radio, and they announced it back with their excitement. They were so stoked and excited as well. They all kind of like rushed in as fast as they could, mind their own kayaks, except for one of our buddies has a little motor on his skiff thing. Looked like a surfboard, literally like a little surfboard thing with the motor. So they all came over and they were shooting videos and filming, and as it progressed and, we were gaining line on this tuna, well, at first I wasn't sure, is this really a bluefin or is this a shark? Like, typically you get excited, but once I realized a couple of head shakes and how he was digging, it was a bluefin. They got their gaffs ready, and we had a couple close calls with a gaff and the fish not ready to be gaffed, and another person, one of my other buddies took a turn, and luckily we had an amazing gaff shot. Key just gaffed him straight into the face, and we were able to get him on board.
Awesome. Yeah, to be able to land that fish, especially after everything, like you said, everything kind of just lined up and worked out. That's an amazing catch for sure.
No, super cool. And I think the one thing to take away is when you catch them on a kayak, it's not like a boat where, you have higher ground and more ground to move around. You're at the mercy of what direction this fish wants to go. So a couple of times he would just, dig deep, and I felt like a teeter-totter on my kayak. And, luckily they have steering on there where you can steer around and go backwards and forwards. And that really, I think, was the game changer of me landing this fish, because I could kind of maneuver with him. But it was interesting and definitely not easy.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't at all. I used to do quite a bit of kayak fishing back in my high school days. We'd fish La Jolla and Atadena as well. I had a first gen Outback.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was always fun, and that's kind of how a lot of people get started, and a lot of people just enjoy the kayak almost more than fishing the boat a lot of times.
Yeah, it's that's pretty cool. Down La Jolla, I've heard the stories of people going after those yellowtail, and kayaks have definitely come into the limelight with the current market. And I've just been lucky enough to learn this type of fishing recently through friends that I was actually out with on this trip, and then also guys at Hobie. I have a friend over there named Morgan and Howie that are phenomenal fishermen and people that have really kind of got me into the sport too. And it's a pretty unique thing that it's good for the mind, the body, the soul, exercise, and it's just an easy way to get on the water.
Yeah, totally. So getting into like the kayak and everything, and maybe even your setups, how did you prepare for this trip other than, just getting down to the water and going for it? What kind of things do you guys have to prepare differently than, say, a guy on a boat or you're hopping on a sport boat?
Yeah. So a couple things that I learned right away is hydration. Like, you don't really think about that. Yeah, let's just bring, a jug of water or whatnot, but bringing extra hydration was key, because, not only pedaling that far, but also fighting the bluefin, you're really using all your muscles more. So that was really important that, have extra bottles of water. That was different than, just having something at your leisure. Also, not having a giant bait tank. There's a little Hobie portable bait tank that I had on there, making sure that that's working correctly the night before. That was super crucial because it allowed us not to waste any time getting out to the fishing grounds and making sure the bait didn't die. So that was important. And then also, some of the basics like your life vest, making sure your walkie-talkie is charged, or your radio. That was important and an absolute must when you're going out in these open waters where it could be, anything could happen, and safety's, obviously got to be number one priority. So having all that stuff charged up and, having a gaff that makes sense, and, without a lot of space, even though these Outbacks have tons of space, finding ways to put things in easy compartments and ways to get them, like your jig or your hooks or your leader line. I put them in this clear bag that Daiwa makes, kind of like you can put your plastic worms if you're a bass fisherman in there. I just put a little bit of everything so I can condense them rather than bringing in a giant, tackle box or anything. And then, things like having a fish clip, making sure that's tied on before. I mean, even if you expect to catch a fish or don't expect, you always got to be ready to, process your catch right away and take care of them. And just little things like having scissors to cut them and bleed them properly. It's just all these little things, kind of little checklists to make sure you go okay. Make sure your rudders and your pedals and everything is good to go. But yeah, I mean, just checking off all those things the night before, and then, checking them again in the beginning. And then most importantly, going with friends and people that are also experienced. That's I think the most mindful thing, and keeps you at ease, that, you have support out there when you're trying to, catch a bluefin on a kayak.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you guys are going to get more and more shots at it as this season progresses. It seems like that stuff, is close to the beach almost every afternoon. And, at least once a week you hear a fish being caught in even closer water than what you guys experienced. I had a couple buddies fishing just off Dana Point last weekend, and they were in 120 feet of water and got bit.
Jeez, that's right. This is amazing year.
Yeah, definitely something for the record books, and it's just something that's part of history right now. We're seeing this bluefin rush the beach, coming in so tight, within 100 feet of water and feeding. That stuff at Catalina's doing the same thing on the East End. It's just been amazing.
I mean, when's the last time? I have never heard of this. Have you, Daniel? When's the last time you've heard of these fish getting that close? You said a few years ago that you had a buddy that mentioned it.
Yeah. So we, what was it? 2015 maybe.
Okay. Yeah. 2015
was a good year where we saw that bluefin rush the beach pretty close. It seems, when it gets stuck inside here with all that anchovy, it does seem to stick around, and we'll see it in shallow water. I've hooked quite a few fish in less than 300 feet of water in the last 3 or 4 years. So it just, you never know when it's going to pop up. And I think a lot of people think it's dolphin and drive by it half the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a small dolphin. I just keep going.
Yeah, we're way too close in.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and I think one thing that I replay it, like the last few days I've been replaying it in my mind, is hooking them on the right equipment. I had I was telling my uncle, my buddies, and they're like, "You caught him on a spinning reel?" I'm like, "Yeah, I caught him on a beefy spinning reel that is, tough and strong, and having a tough and strong rod. If I was to hook them on a lighter bass outfit or, something lighter, it would have been maybe a different story, maybe not, but you really got to come prepared with the right tackle if your goal is to land these things."
And the spinning gear has come so far in the past, 10 years. It's amazing. The drag systems on these things and the gear ratios and everything, they're just bulletproof now. And more and more fish are being caught on the spinning gear, and by myself and my friends.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It was, the line just screaming off. It was so smooth. It was a Certate 14,000. I probably could have had a 10,000, but I just happened to have a 14,000. And it was 50-pound J-Braid Island Blue, and I had a 60-pound leader. So that fish was definitely asking for a bruising with that setup. But I had Alexa set up on my other side, and if I would have hooked him on that, Alexa, it was a small Alexa, I could have done just as fine, but it was much lighter line. So, who knows? But luckily we hooked him on the right setup.
Having the right gear for this fishery is definitely a game changer. Smooth drag systems, everything you just said, exactly. This was awesome, Greg. I'm so stoked I got to talk to you today, and just bringing light to that. A couple guys out there on the kayaks are having shots at these things, I think is awesome.
Yeah, no, we're gonna have to continue to monitor these beaches a little closer than we typically do in previous years, right, Daniel?
All right, folks, and that's going to conclude episode 31 of the Western Outdoor News Podcast. For more information on trips and charters and that Kiss My Bass charity tournament, visit wonews.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.